After Web 2, new interactive technologies make the interpretative activities of the normal audience become a very central position of media design and use. The new interactive technologies indeed promote a new business model. The audiences, users, customers are no longer a single identity. They are invited to become a co-creator of the product they buy. Pepsi invites customers to design their personal cans. Reality shows invite the audiences to vote for the contestant they like. But this is not the only relationship between who offers goods or service and the audiences. YouTube brimming with the videos which upload by the unpaid users. Google collect data from the users, then use it to accurately launch its advertisements. The audiences of nowadays media environment, they are more active, more creative, even more chaotic, with ambivalent and complicated identities. Some media scholars, such as Henry Jenkins and Claire Shirky, they see the involvement of users, audiences, fans, as well as the influences of their movements as an important advantage to the society's social network and an empowerment of individuals. While interactive technology is extremely increasing the voice and visibility of the audience, Fuchs points out that the exploitation cannot be covered by the pleasure if we only concentrate on small pieces of empowerment and still ignore the ownership, capitalism, and class which inside the power structure stop to question who owns the vested interest in with no effort. Today, we are going to have a talk with our special guest, Dr. Jacob Johnson, to discuss the empowerment and exploitation of the Internet generation, the situation that the new media users have to face, and the further problems which we will return back of it in conclusion.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you, Jacob?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thanks for interviewing me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. The reason I'm sitting here is that I read your recent book, Psychoanalysis and Digital Culture, Audience and Social Media and Big Data. We can see from the third chapter, you quite uncommonly concentrate on what the audience of Envirus Body try to hide on their Twitter. The meaning of what they didn't say may be more important than what they said on the Twitter. And I think we can link it to your fifth chapter, which you point out the concept of effective labor and the environment of social media. The reason why they decided not to send particular content on the social media, not only because of some unconscious reason, but also the unsafe atmosphere the users feel on the social media, because they may not the rights or the beauty that the ideology of society think they are. So they do quite a lot self-censorship to make sure they will not be internet bullying. Do you think the internet bullying and also the self-censorship are the drawbacks of participatory culture?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if we kind of think about the internet and how the internet or social media has been kind of researched and conceptualized by scholars in the last kind of 20 years or so. If we think about participatory culture, which is Henry Jenkins' kind of term, in the beginning, excuse me, when social media is kind of emerging, we have very, very kind of positive, very kind of euphoric scholarship on social media, where authors are kind of writing, this is the new, public sphere. This is the new kind of way for us to engage with and communicate with other people. This enables, this is the classic Jenkins kind of participatory culture, and then this debate shifts a little bit, and actually Jenkins later on he sort of admits that maybe his early work was a bit too kind of one-dimensional. where actually there is a lot of nastiness going on social media. I mean, we've seen it in particular in the kind of last few years, where Western social media in particular is, very very polarized, where people actually don't engage with each other at all, or people engage with each other, but it's all about kind of, as you said, it's about, there's a lot of bullying, it's about shaming, it's about anger, and so on. So that is definitely a part of social media now, and it's partly because of how the big kind of social media platforms work, how they are designed. It's all about, Twitter in particular is all about kind of retweeting. It's now all about kind of very centralized or kind of concentrated around like big accounts with huge followers, where it's kind of just about, I need to kind of produce a sort of funny, witty tweet so that it gets liked and retweeted lots, because that's how the algorithm operates, and the same is on YouTube and so on. The more kind of polarizing, the more controversial the content, the higher it will be pushed by the algorithm.
Yes.
So that's definitely there, and that kind of informs, I think, everyone's ways of using social media. So a lot of people are now very cautious, what they kind of say online. It's not this kind of safe space anymore, when it probably never was, but how it was originally kind of described by scholars in the beginning.
Concept of perversion you use to describe the relationship between internet user and internet commercial companies is quite interesting. It's kind of like the word perversion. It is interesting, and it is like the two sides. Users are beloved and also be exploited of the same coin. How do you think the joy of participatory culture and exploitation of digital labor, are they two sides of the same coin?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I totally kind of agree with this notion, which has been, really advanced and theorized by my colleague Christian Fuchs, who is here, also at KAMRI. He has kind of created this theory of digital labor, whereas, what we do on commercial social media is a form of labor, is a form of unpaid labor, because we contribute to value, to profits being generated for these companies. And they kind of relate this to affect in the book as well. So I agree with that. And at the same time, of course, there are very positive things, as you said, about social media, about the internet, about how we use social media. This has also been really well discussed by Carly Jarrett, who I kind of also referred to in my book. She kind of discusses this as well in her book, The Digital Housewife, which is really interesting. But to kind of relate this to perversion, so what I'm sort of interested in the kind of last part of the book. I'm interested in not only thinking about social media, but also to kind of think about big data. Yeah. So not only do we have these kind of social media platforms now, but how our data are kind of increasingly connected. This is really something new that has been kind of happening in the last few years, which is kind of summarized by terms like big data or datafication and so on, where now everything what we do pretty much is being attempted at least to be turned into digital data. And those different kind of data are actually sort of being connected, or they're being merged, and they're being kind of analyzed in the thousands and so on, so that these platforms can find out more about us, and also so that these platforms can actually work, and that the algorithms can work and so on. And this kind of I relate to perversion, which I used in quite a sort of critical way, negative way, to critique what is going on, because we are being kind of really valued, we are really being kind of cherished as users because these platforms depend on our data, and they promise and they deliver a very individualized, a very unique kind of experience for us. Using social media is not the same for any of us. It's highly individualized, thanks to big data. And at the same time, we are being kind of abused, we are being kind of exploited, appropriated our data and so on, and we don't know what happens, to our data. In most cases, we are not aware of these things happening. And this sort of what appears to be quite contradictory, we are being really kind of valued and really loved. It's a form of love, and at the same time abused. This I kind of further think about through this idea of perversion, because it's a perverse relationship, and in a perverse relationship, which is a psychoanalytic term, psychoanalytic concept, the pervert, in a kind of relationship, precisely operates in this way. The other, the partner in the relationship, is being highly abused, highly kind of objectified, and loved and kind of really idealized at the same time. Is there kind of a sort of positive aspect to this, or is there like a joyful kind of aspect to this?
Yeah, it's like the joy is like you can use the internet and use the social platform to truly connect to others. You can receive the recognition from
Absolutely.
your sharing, and you just really can enjoy a lot of tons of things on the internet.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't want to kind of discount that or to kind of ignore that. Of course, the internet or social media and so on is very positive. Yeah, very positive. Lots of positive things to say. And this idea of recognition, as you said, it's really crucial because it can really offer us this kind of sense of recognition. We are engaging with our friends. What we say and so on is being liked and is being shared, and people comment on it and so on. This is really healthy. It's really good. It makes us feel good. If it's kind of positive, so that is absolutely a part of this, but it is a part of these kind of more objective factors where we are sort of just regarded as kind of data points that can be, where data can be sold, where data can be tracked, where data is where we are under surveillance and so on. So these things, they have to be thought together.
Yes.
And it's not about saying, either the contemporary internet is totally negative, it's totally horrible, or it's perfect, it's beautiful. Both, kind of need to be thought together. Yeah.
One example of your book, it is quite interesting. It is about the big data. It's like you said, if your website think you are a girl, and you have nothing to do to change his mind.
Yeah. So Google, for example, or other search engines probably as well, constructs a kind of profile based on our behavior, on our kind of search behavior, and we are automatically kind of classified either male or female, and also in a kind of age range. And this is just based on the things I search for. And of course, this might be wrong. Google might kind of make wrong conclusions, but there is nothing really I can do as a kind of ordinary user to influence that or to kind of change that. And that example is very at the basic level. When it comes to much more kind of sophisticated datafication processes, I don't even know, as a user, what conclusions are drawn, what kind of analysis are sort of conducted based on my data. Yeah.
We are still so powerless. Even a lot of positive theories, a lot of positive concept is talking about how the internet is empowered ourselves, but actually the truth is we still quite powerless.
Yeah, I mean, of course the internet there is this empowerment. I mean, if you think about, you know, the Me Too movement, which is pretty much now a global kind of movement, and it's thanks to the internet. You know, I absolutely don't want to kind of discourage or kind of dismiss those sort of events and trends. Absolutely, the internet is very powerful and it can be very empowering. But there are these other kind of dynamics as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're very welcome.
It is true that the conflicts always exist when media scholars argue that which part should be emphasized instead of audience commodity. But Haley Jarrett offers a new opinion that maybe there is a dynamic equilibrium of those discourse. She points out those qualities affect exchange value, use value, are intersected. The requirement of the result of consumer culture moves away from distinguish whether or not the audience is exploitative, productive, alienating or not. The module we need is an integration of both economic and the social role of this work, because the consequences of nowadays media environment are complex and always unexpected. Even commercial dating website can bring more freedom of choice and movement for users. The boom of consumer culture has offered multiple places to people: the cinema, restaurant, theaters, and so on. New opportunities for enjoyment and relaxation, but at the same time, it is a predomination that commodification will erode things, which was inalienable objects, reciprocal dependence, and exchange for build a qualitative relationship between subjects. It is hard to say good or bad, but it is needed to discuss moral or unethical. As what Jacob pointed out in this interview, we have no choice with the decision which made by the commercial company such as Google. We even have no power to define the gender of our digital account, while the digitalization is increasingly more intense than ever. The problem of surveillance emerges. Every time we use health application, every time we sign in a new website, we upload amount of our personal information. The point is those devices are networked. They are able to record, process, to store, and circulate information. Your body information, even your body, was out of your control in this process, as well as every next step. How much degree is proper that the commercial internet companies use users' data, and how much degree is proper that the commodification of affect. While all we know, both of them are inevitable.